this is, in old age, never share these 5 things with anyone. A whisper in the night. There's a moment, a quiet, almost sacred pause that comes when you least expect it. It happens late at night, perhaps after the hum of daily life has faded into silence. The children are grown, the house is still, and for the first time in years, there's nothing but your own thoughts to keep you company. That's when it hits you. Most of your life is behind you now. And while this realization might feel heavy, it isn't tragic. No, it's something far more profound. It's an awakening. But with that clarity comes a sharpness, like the edge of a blade pressed gently against your skin. You begin to see how much of yourself you've given away over the years, pieces of your soul handed out like fragile gifts, hoping someone would cradle them carefully. Too often they didn't. As we age, our bodies may grow fragile, but so does our spirit. There are memories, truths, scars, and longings carried deep within us that were never meant to be shared casually. Because if you give these things to the wrong person, you don't just lose trust, you lose yourself. Protect it not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Out of a hard-earned understanding that not everyone deserves access to your soul. I've spoken to hundreds of people, men and women, well into their twilight years, and one regret echoes louder than all others. I wish I hadn't told them that. What you share in your later years can either preserve your dignity or unravel it. It can build legacy or sow confusion and pain. Let me tell you about Arthur. He was 73, a retired teacher with eyes that had seen too much. His modest home was filled with books and photographs, remnants of a rich life lived fully. But Arthur had a tendency to talk too much. Not foolishly, no, he was brilliant. Yet he never quite learned that some pain doesn't need to be witnessed to be real. One day he confided something deeply personal to a new acquaintance, someone who seemed kind, understanding, someone who listened. Weeks later, his private pain was twisted, mocked, and whispered through their small town like gossip on a playground. Arthur stopped going to the local cafe after that. He stopped smiling as much. Though he never said it aloud, I could see it in him. A piece of him died that day. And here's the truth. Openness isn't always strength. Vulnerability is a gift, but only when offered in the right context. In old age, it's no longer about proving how open you can be. It's about discerning who has earned the right to see the inner architecture of your being. There are 5 deeply personal realms of your life that should remain sacred in your later years. Let me walk you through them, not because I want to encourage secrecy, but because I want to help you protect what matters most. 1. Your deepest regrets. Regrets aren't simple admissions of failure. They're emotional landmines. When shared carelessly, they allow others to redefine your story, to label you, diminish your complexity, and reduce you to a single moment of weakness. People are quick to remember your worst day and slow to recall your best. Take Arthur again. He once told someone he regretted not standing up to his abusive father. After that, people saw him only as a man defined by a lack of courage. What they didn't know was that he'd spent decades teaching young boys how to be brave, how to carry themselves with dignity. That regret fueled a legacy, but by sharing it recklessly, he let others define him forever. Don't make that mistake. Let your regrets teach you, refine you, but don't hand them out like tokens. Consider another example. Margaret, a woman I met during my travels. She confessed to me that her biggest regret was leaving her first marriage too soon. I thought I needed excitement, she said, her voice trembling slightly. But looking back, I realize I threw away stability for chaos. She shared this with a close friend, believing it would bring them closer. Instead, that friend used it as ammunition during arguments, saying things like, "Well, maybe you should have stayed with your ex if you're so unhappy now." Margaret felt betrayed, not because the words stung, though they did, but because her vulnerability had been weaponized against her. Regret is a teacher, not a burden. It shapes us, molds us into wiser versions of ourselves. But it must be handled delicately. If you share it with someone who lacks empathy or maturity, they will misuse it. Guard your regrets like treasures. They contain lessons meant for you alone. 2. The full depth of your financial situation. Money is a peculiar thing. It carries weight, power, and sometimes shame. Whether you're wealthy or struggling, revealing the full extent of your financial situation invites judgment, envy, or even exploitation. Once people know exactly what you have, you're no longer a person, you're a resource. Especially in old age, I've seen families torn apart by inheritance disputes, friends turned into predators, and trust destroyed by greed. Take Harold, for instance. A retired engineer, Harold had managed to save a modest fortune over his lifetime. He lived simply, driving an old car and wearing clothes from thrift stores. But when word got out among his extended family that he owned multiple properties, everything changed. Cousins he hadn't spoken to in years suddenly reappeared, bringing gifts and false affection. One niece even began dropping hints about needing help with her child's education fund. Harold, feeling pressured, eventually cut ties with many of them, retreating further into solitude. Be generous if you want to help others, but don't open the books to everyone. You're not obligated to explain how you've survived, saved, or what you plan to leave behind. That knowledge, when placed in the wrong hands, becomes a weapon. Instead, focus on using your resources wisely, quietly, and with intention. True generosity lies in giving without expectation, not in broadcasting your wealth or lack thereof for the world to judge. 3. Your pain. Yes, this one is controversial, and I'm not suggesting you suffer in silence. Hear me out. Not everyone who listens cares, and not everyone who cares deserves to know. Some people collect stories of pain not to empathize, but to control, manipulate, or feed their sense of moral superiority. I met a woman named Elaine who shared the details of her grief after her son's suicide with a support group. Within months, one member began telling her story at events without her consent, turning her private sorrow into a public fable. Her pain became currency for someone else's status. That's theft, plain and simple. Protect yourself from it. Pain is intimate. It belongs to you, and only you decide who gets to witness it. When you share it too freely, you risk diluting its significance. Pain demands respect, and those who truly deserve to hear it will approach it with reverence, not curiosity. Remember, healing is a journey, not a performance. Keep your wounds close until you find someone worthy of holding them gently. 4. Your future plans. In old age, your dreams become delicate things. They're no longer grand schemes but intimate hopes like taking a trip, finishing a book, or reconciling with an estranged child. When you share those plans with people who lack imagination or compassion, they'll mock them, dismiss them, and drain them of meaning. I've seen older people abandon their final dream simply because someone scoffed at them. You're too old for that. And just like that, the dream dies. Don't let anyone rob you of that last spark. Hold your future close, it still matters. Think about Ruth, a vibrant 80-year-old artist I interviewed last year. For decades, she dreamed of painting a mural in her community center. Finally, she decided to pursue it, despite her arthritis making every brushstroke painful. She mentioned her plan to a neighbor, expecting encouragement. Instead, the neighbor laughed, saying, "At your age? Why bother?" Ruth doubted herself for weeks afterward, nearly abandoning the project altogether. Thankfully, she found the courage to continue, and the finished mural brought joy to countless visitors. Imagine if she'd let someone else's cynicism extinguish her light. Your dreams are precious. Share them sparingly and only with those who believe in possibility. 5. Your resentments. Bitterness is a fire, and when you speak it aloud, it grows. I've watched old men poison their remaining years by giving voice to every grudge, every slight. Speaking resentment won't free you unless you're speaking to someone truly wise, someone who can hold it without judgment. Instead, turn resentment into wisdom, boundaries, or silence. That is strength. Resentment festers when left unchecked. It consumes energy better spent elsewhere. Rather than feeding it with words, confront it internally. Ask yourself, what lesson does this resentment hold? How can I use it to grow stronger, wiser, kinder? Sometimes forgiveness isn't about absolving others. It's about freeing yourself. What then should you share? Share your love, curiosity, humor, stories, music, photographs, and memories. Share the warmth that remains in you, because that's the part of you that gives others hope. Guard the rest, you've earned the right to keep it. Old age is not a slow descent into irrelevance. It's a narrowing of focus, a sharpening. Like a blade honed over years of use, you don't need the whole world to understand you. You need only a few good people, and even then, they don't need to know everything. Let them earn that access. You are not a confession booth. You are a temple, and temples do not open their doors to everyone who passes by. The call to action. If you've ever felt the sting of betrayal, if you've ever watched someone misuse something you told them in confidence, then you already know what I'm talking about. Let this video be your reminder, your anchor. Silence can be a form of wisdom. You don't owe anyone the full story. What you choose to protect in your old age may just be what saves your soul. So now I ask you, what will you guard? What pieces of yourself have you been giving away too easily? Think about that. Really sit with it. Maybe it's your time, your energy, or your deepest thoughts. Maybe it's your boundaries, your peace of mind, or your trust. Whatever it is, reclaim it. Hold it close. Protect it fiercely, not out of fear, but out of love for the person you are and the person you want to remain. And if this resonated with you, share it not because I need the views, but because someone out there, someone with gray in their hair and pain in their heart needs to hear it. Needs to be reminded that it's not too late to protect what's left. Too many people go through life thinking they've already given too much, that their best days are behind them. But here's the truth. Every single day offers a chance to start guarding what matters most. Every moment is an opportunity to rebuild your walls, strengthen your spirit, and honor who you truly are. And if you're younger, if old age still feels far away, listen anyway. The habits you build now will define who you become. Don't wait until you've been broken to start protecting yourself. Start today and build a life that ends in dignity, not regret. Because one day, when the world asks more of you than you can give, you'll look back and realize how important it was to hold on to those parts of yourself that no one else could touch. Subscribe if you haven't already. We've got work to do together. This isn't just about me sharing ideas, it's about creating a space where we can all grow stronger, wiser, and kinder to ourselves and to each other. Leave a comment below telling me what you're choosing to guard. Whether it's your voice, your dreams, your secrets, or simply your quiet moments, let's inspire each other to take ownership of our lives and our stories. Thank you for being here, for showing up, for listening, and for daring to care about what comes next. Here's to living boldly, loving deeply, and protecting fiercely.